Hi, I thought I'd go live and just show you this microwave transformer that I took apart. Um, so basically these laminations, look at the size of this lot. I took off a microwave transformer, I stripped the whole thing down and I managed to, it's in a bag actually, I've stuck it in a bag, I put plastic on it so it doesn't go rusty because when I used acetone to melt the varnish, and one of the problems with using a solvent is that you remove all the oil or any lubricants or coatings that would protect you from rust. So what I've done is I've stuck it in a bag, and it's very heavy actually, there's a lot there. I'm just going to tilt it over so you can see the E laminations. If I can, they're heavy. I don't want them to fall all over the place, you see. I can't move them, they're so frigging heavy. Hang on. Right, there we go. So they're in a bag, right. You can see all the laminations that I salvaged from a microwave transformer. And if I'd had to have these cut by the local firm that recently cut my other steel laminations, it would have cost me probably 150 to 200 pounds just to get them laser cut. I mean, there's a lot of steel here. Now, why have I salvaged a microwave transformer? What is it for? Well, if you remember some months ago, when I was I wanted to build some extra chokes. Now, I'm not saying I need the chokes right now, but it's nice to be able to make them for experimentation. Now, this is the choke that I used on my generator project. If you remember, I was coupling it up to the circuit board on the unit, right? Now, I only had one choke, and I kept saying that, well, I needed more chokes. I needed at least 3 or 4 chokes, really, for this to experiment with. And I only had this one. And at the time, I was looking at getting hold of some chokes that come out of fluorescent lights. And then somebody threw away a microwave, and I thought, I've just got an idea. I don't have to use the whole transformer. There's no need to use the whole transformer. I can just use the whole transformer to make several chokes, which is the idea. So what I can actually do is, by saying taking a segment of lamination, say that thick or a bit thicker, I can design a bobbin to wind a coil on and use a small section of these laminations to make a choke. And I could make another choke with another section of laminations, and so on. So all of these laminations will enable me to make several chokes, possibly up to 5, maybe 10 chokes. It depends on what the weight of the iron is and how thick I make the chokes. So I've got to, well, because I had some success with that previous one that's inside this can. I'd have to take the can off to show you, but I've showed it previously. The transformer that's in there is quite narrow actually. It's quite, what I could do is take it out, weigh it, get the weight of the iron plus the copper wire. I can't remember now if I actually weighed the iron without the copper wire on there, but I could guesstimate that. I could calculate basically how much wire is on there and do a subtraction, but it doesn't have to be exactly right. I can just work it out by the number of laminations. I could just measure the width of the laminations on my calipers, then use the same width on of these other laminations. They tend to be a standard size of about 0.5 millimeters thick. And what I'm doing at the moment is I'm separating these others that are still stuck together, which is the end ones. Now what I actually did was you can see where I ground the welds off because they were welded together as well. So I use an angle grinder to grind the welds off, and but these are still stuck together. And I'm going to show you a little technique I use to get them apart. So what I'm going to do is put my camera on this stand, right? And I'll explain how the best way of doing it is, because I'm sure a few people have wondered about doing this. Now, there's a little catch. Use a thin knife, and obviously I've weakened the varnish, the actual lacquer. Well, I think they actually use resin on these. what you got to do is get a really sharp knife, and you've got to find the crack in between them, and you've got to get the knife in there. And it is a painstaking job. It's not easy. I mean, it's not simple. I mean, I'm not saying it is, because they're stuck together with the varnish still, and even though I weakened the varnish with the acetone, they're still stuck together and they're being compressed. So what I do is I get a knife, find the crack, and there's still some bits of weld on one end. So what you do is you get the knife, you slide it along, you slide the knife along all the way to the end. Now it's loose. Now normally you would just peel it back, but the trouble is, if you just grab a hold of that lamination, right, and peel it back, you're more likely to bend the lamination at this end. So rather than peeling it, what I actually do is I rotate it on that a pivot point where that weld is. So what I do is I just grab it and pivot it like that. Then I don't get a bend right on the end, because otherwise you end up with a little bit sticking that's curled up on the end, which is really a problem, because then you've got to get your pliers and flatten it out. So rather than actually just peeling it back, I just rotate it, and it leaves a nice clean break where the weld was. There's a tiny little bit of weld on the end that it was still attached to. So this is what I've been doing for the last hour or two. I mean, I put this job aside for a while because I'd done all the E-brackets, and it was an 8-hour job doing the E-brackets, and it was extremely painstaking and boring, and that was last week. And then I had the issues with my refrigerator, and sometimes they're attached at both ends. When that happens, you've got to peel them like this, or bend them over. But anyway, this one is okay. I can just rotate it like that. Now I would have had it, that bend, there's a slight bend there because I did peel it slightly, so you can see that little, right in that corner, there's a little nick. But it's not a big problem. I mean, if you do that, you just get your pliers and then you wiggle it a bit, and then it flattens it out. So yeah, so I'm trying to salvage all these, the end of the E-brackets, basically. I forgot what we call them, the, what do you call the end ones? I've forgotten now. Yeah, but another technique is if they're stuck together, you can just flex them a bit. You just flex them. You don't bend them too much, otherwise I mean, you don't bend them to the point where they stay once you bend them. You just flex them a little bit to break that bond between the lacquer. You just wiggle them about a little bit, and it helps to separate them a little bit, so I can get my knife in a bit easier. Getting the knife in is a bit of a trick as well. You've got to find an end that's clean and it hasn't got, yeah, we can just get your knife in there. Once you get your knife in, it separates, then it's easy to get back in again once you turn it around. And I just run my blade all the way down to the bottom. There's still a bit of weld on these. I could have ground it all off, but I'm trying to save as much material as possible, you see. So yeah, now I've done that. This one's actually got a weld all the way down, so in this case I've got to flap it out. I can't pivot it because it's attached at both ends, so I've just got to do that basically. And actually this weld is pretty severe on the one end, so now I can flatten it out again, lay it flat. Now I can pivot it to separate it like that. And it has got a bit of a nick there, so I'm going to have to flatten that bit out. There's just tiny around the corner there. Yeah, when you're grinding the welds off, there's always a little bit where it got really hot and it sticks a little bit. You know, the laminations stick together a little bit, and it's best to flatten them as you're getting them off, because then when you come to put the thing together again, you don't keep cursing yourself every time you get one that's bent. It's best to flatten them as much as possible, because when you assemble these things anyway, you've got to put them in a vise. You've got to put them in a vise anyway to squeeze them all together. I hope I'm not muted, because oh, Phil's there. Oh, hi Phil. I wasn't looking at the screen. I just thought I'd check the audio, and I noticed you were talking to me. As I was just saying, it's a microwave transformer that I actually got a few weeks ago. Just a little recap, and I got the windings off it by softening it all in acetone, and so this is the end block of laminations plus all these are. Oops, they're all flying all over the place now. So I've got loads of these. Just a little recap, I think. So these are the other end ones that I've separated already, if I can get them out of this bag. These are the ones I've separated. So I can make several chokes out of these. Instead of struggling with those horrible fluorescent chokes which are welded together and they're just as bad, one microwave transformer, once you get it apart, you can make a number of small chokes with it. Well, quite large chokes actually. So I use an angle grinder to grind the welds off, and but there's still some slight bleed through of the weld where they're still attached, and you can bang them with a hammer to separate them a little bit, but then you bruise them and you end up with indentations and distortions. So it's not a good idea to hit them with a hammer. There is still a bit of varnish on this side, I can see there, but I'm not too worried. If I can get my knife in, this lot is just stuck together still, and just get my knife in between the laminations. I can split them up one by one like this. That one came off quite well, and then you just rotate on the pivot point so you don't bend the ends over. So that's the best way of taking these out. It's really straightforward. Once you've got most of the weld off, you can just run your knife down them. Easy. They come off like that. So this is what I'm just showing people how the best way to get the lamination separated. Run your knife down, then just rotate them on that pivot point and they'll break off. Because if you bend them up, you'll end up with a curled corner, and you don't want to curly corners, because when you put the thing back together again, if you end up with two corners that are pointing towards each other, you end up with a fat, chunky transformer where everything's bloated out, and you've got to squeeze it in a vise to get them all squeezed back together again. And you don't want that if you can help it. You really don't want that. So it's best to just do this. You know, when you end up blade down, then pivot it on the end until it snaps off, and then you end up with a nice, perfectly flat piece of steel that isn't warped or bent. So I started to make a video about this. This is the only reason I've gone live right now, because I just wanted a little change. I wanted to do something else because my generator is almost ready to hook up and put the coil circuit back on it, but I didn't feel like doing it tonight because I've been feeling extremely lethargic, and doing this, it's kind of therapeutical. We've just had a thunderstorm, and I was feeling extremely tired and weary and everything, and depressed, whatever. But yeah, sometimes you just get fed up, and you just like a change. And when you're doing something like this, and it might be repetitive, but it's something you don't need brain work for. You don't have to start thinking all the time. You can relax. You know it. You master a technique, and you get a kick out of doing it, really, because it's nice to be able to do something that works and you don't have problems. But if you have the odd little problem where there's a weld still, a major bit of weld still attached, then it's not a major problem to figure out. So I'm just pivoting them, and they're all perfectly flat, as you can see. I don't know if you can see that. You see the end, it's perfectly flat. Let's just move it across. You can see there's no curls on there whatsoever, and that's what I want. And I've got a lot more to go yet. I've got all the E's are done, all of the E brackets are done. It took me like 8 hours maybe to do those. I can't remember exactly how many hours, but it was a whole day basically. The E's were a big problem, because I had to go around the whole thing. I mean, let me just take a couple of these out and I'll show you what I mean. If I just open this bag up, I'll take a few out and I'll show you what I mean. But right, the E brackets are the biggest challenge, because what happens with these are all separated now. Here we go, there's a few here. So what happened with these is that, as you can see, there's varnish on there and they were stuck together really bad. Now, the way to separate the E brackets was a big challenge, a major one, and the way I did that was they were still inside the core of the transformer with all the windings and everything, so the bobbin, the core was all in there, and I just couldn't get the damn things out because they were just too compressed in there. The varnish was gripping them too much. I would have required a fair few tons of pressure to get these things out. So what I did was I used my steel ruler Same principle with a knife. You start off with a knife. You get your knife and you would separate, get it started. And while the knife was in there, because it was so freaking tight, my knife just stuck in there. Once I got my knife in there, then I was able to get my steel ruler in. Stuck my steel ruler in like that, then pull the knife out. Then I would basically get the ruler like this. I'm just showing you how to do it. Get a hammer, bash your ruler all the way down so that it breaks the bond, because they were really well stuck together. Then after you've knocked it down, you've got to wiggle it. You wiggle it until you get it out like that. Then you pivot it. You pivot it and you rock it all the way around. You just wiggle it like this. Then you come around, you move your ruler to the middle section, go down, you bang it with a hammer until it basically goes all the way out the end like that. Then you pull it out. Then you had to move it around like that, like a saw, to break the bond. Then you move this over there, you push it down, you hit it with a hammer, and you'd break one off. That was how much of a hassle the E-brackets were, and I had to do that on every lamination to get it apart, because they are literally stuck together with varnish. You can see the bond, the material there. You can see where it was stuck. It was, even the acetone couldn't get between these laminations. They must have, I think when they make these things, they actually put them in a compressor, and they actually compress the varnish between the laminations to really stick them together, so they're really bound strong, and it makes life a real misery. But they're all separate now, as you can see. All there, there's a lot there. And there must be 150 to 200 quid worth of steel there. If I had to get them cut, it would cost me a lot of money, and it saved me a bit of money, so I better make my own chokes out of that lot. And the bags is simply to stop moisture getting to them so they don't go rusty. Recapping and repeating myself just for the sake of people that are just late coming, but I'm not going to do it again, because I'm going to end the stream in a minute. I'm just showing you how to split these things, because they aren't easy if you don't know how. They can be a real drag. So just run my knife down and pivot. I like the ones on the ends, they're a lot easier than the E-brackets. The E-brackets are a real drag, really. I mean, you need a steel ruler to get those off. Something that's strong and thin. You can't use a chisel, because you'll just warp all your laminations. You've got to use something that's thin, like a steel ruler, that's strong. This ruler is really strong. I mean, I can bash it with a hammer and it won't bend. Actually use that in this ruler. I actually bought this in 1977 when I was working in engineering. This ruler has been with me a long time, and I can still just about read out the scale on it. It's been through all sorts of abuse. It's been heated up. That's why it's gone blue on one end. Yeah, it's one of the things first thing you have to buy when you work in an engineering firm. They tell you to go and buy a steel ruler, because it's the most critical tool you can have when you need it. Yeah. So some of these come off easy. Some of these I don't need to rotate, because they just come off easy. But some of them are a little bit more problematic. Right, but the way I'm going with this, you can see these are 0.5 millimeters thick, right, each one of these laminations. So it doesn't look like this thing's getting any thinner, but it is slowly getting thinner as you peel one off by one by one. But it's all about environmental, you know, saving the environment. I mean, so much of this stuff ends up in landfill. It's a shame. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and these things cost a lot of money to make. So why the hell do people just chuck these things out and then they end up in landfill when they can be recycled? I think the problem is people are too lazy. Well, I wouldn't say lazy, but maybe they just lack the technical know-how, or they don't see a purpose, or they don't have a reason to recycle these things. But I mean, there's so people there could be a lot of jobs in this country. People could be doing this and setting up their own businesses of recycling old transformers and making money out of it. But people are just, I don't know, they just spend all the time in pubs and drinking and getting drunk and taking drugs, and it's a shame, really. there's so much that you could do in this country to save the environment, to help industry, even if it's to resell the laminations online on eBay. You could make a lot of money on doing that as well. You could find old transformers, strip them down, then sell the laminations as recycled steel transformer components, and you would make a packet. Because trust me, I mean, if you want to get one of these things made in a factory, you would, yeah, because it costing hundreds of pounds, you could make a lot of money on it. I mean, I could possibly, but then you need a source, you need a steady supply of transformers, microwaves and things like that. But you see, what we're doing, this country is shipping a lot of it to India and to China, and the Chinese are making all the money out of it. So it's kind of a shame, really. But there's a lot of opportunities if you know where to look. But it is very laborious. It is extremely tiring. It's repetitive and straining. It's not really for somebody at my age, because I can't cope with this when I'm 60 now, and I can't do this all day long. I couldn't cope with it, and it would drive me up the wall. What with my tendonitis, which I've got at the moment in my wrist and my arm, I mean. But it's something I don't mind doing occasionally, once in a while, because yeah, it's kind of therapeutic. Getting the blade right in between these laminations is a bit of a trick. You've got to just get it right. My eyes are bad, so it's hard to judge. But so I'm waffling a bit now. Sometimes you get in between the laminations first time, other times I just can't quite get in between them. Yeah, never stop talking, do I? Anyway, I'm going to go. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to stream this for another 2 hours. I mean, it's the same thing over and over and over again, and you'd soon get sick of watching it. I know you would. It's like watching paint dry. Anyway, I'll just check the chat, and then I'm gonna go see what's happening on here. That's how many I've got so far. I've got all that lot to do. Yeah, we had a thunderstorm. Yeah, I'll just catch up on the chat. Yeah, it was pretty nasty actually. It started off with just dry thunder, dry rain. Well, we didn't have any rain, sorry. I mean, it was dry thunder, dry lightning. And then it kind of fizzled out, and then it came back again. I'm just reading your chat. I used to pour super glue into single coils in valves, TVs. Huh. Yeah, I'd be lost without my steel wool. I tell you, it's. I've had it for years, and I'm always reaching for this thing. I am always reaching for it. I'm thinking, how do I get between that? How can I do this? How can I do that? The only thing that's thin enough is my steel ruler, because it's like, well, it's probably 0.8 millimeters thick. I'm not sure exactly how thick the ruler is. I can measure it. Let me just measure it. Well, get my calipers on it. Let's see, my steel ruler, oh my god, it's quite thick actually. It's 0.73 millimeters thick. It's fairly thick, that, really. Just making sure it's calibrated. Yeah, well, it does the job. Anyway, Phil, you take care. Oh, a friend of mine, David, he's had a stroke, and I'm worried about him. He used to come down and see me late at night. I think he was on one of my YouTube videos where he came around once some time ago. I'm not sure if anyone saw him, but anyway, he didn't come down that often. But I'm a bit worried about him because he's 4 years younger than me, and he's in Hull Royal Infirmary at the moment. I hope he's going to be all right, but. Yeah, the trouble is once you've had a stroke, it weakens you, and somebody was saying earlier on the chat about 60 to 75% or something, and it's downhill from there. And he's already got diabetes, so it's not looking good at all. So send your well-being towards my friend Dave. He's actually called Dave Jones, actually, same as that other guy, the one that's in Australia, but it's a different Dave Jones. There's a lot of Davids and there's a lot of Joneses, so I mean it's just a common name. Yeah, he used to be a taxi driver, and yeah, I'm just kind of worried about him. I hope he's going to be all right. I sent him a text message, but he's not answered me, so I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I'm in the dark at the moment. I suppose I could ring up the hospital and find out. Anyway, I'm going to go because my phone's boiling and its battery's down to 71%. You don't watch all this, trust me. It's the same thing over and over and over again, and I've run out of things to talk about. But anyway, in the next couple of days, I've started to wire up the regulator circuit. I've got on my generator. I've got the bridge rectifiers all connected up. All I've got to do is now take the tails of all these other wires, because each coil set is in series with the other one, right? And the series part goes through the bridge rectifiers, full wave rectifiers, each one, and then the other tail from the other end of the coils goes to my circuit, which I put it in the acetone because I wanted to gloss up the board because it got crappy and dirty. So I'm going to be wiring that up in the next day or so, and maybe by Sunday actually, because I did promise Thursday, but I'm a bit late because things have been going on with my fridge and everything, and so hopefully we can get my generator running again by the weekend, and we can run some new tests and test efficiency on it and everything. Philip, I'll just read your comment. Your brother just got out of hospital. He had heart surgery, so I'm taking him to Brid tomorrow. Yeah, be alright if call him for chat sometime. Yeah, have to get on Discord. Come and see us and talk to us all, because we're all in there. Yeah, Ken was asking about you anyway. Yeah, because last time he said he was in the chat with you here and he got cut off. That's trouble is when I cut the stream off, the chat stops as well, which is a shame. But I can't keep streaming for the sake of it, if you know what I mean. Anyway, you take care, and I hope you'll come and see us sometime. Yeah, I'm gonna go now. So I've got these to peel. I'm gonna watch my snooker as well. I've got it on pause right now. I can't really watch snooker while I'm talking on here. Discord, yeah, Discord chat, yeah. Yeah, the Russ's Discord, yeah. Can't you get on there anymore or something? Yeah. Okay, you got the message, right. Anyway, you take care. I'm going to go because, yeah, I'm going to watch some snooker and finish this job off, which is kind of therapeutical, but it's boring. You see, I can do this job while I'm watching snooker, you see, without any problem, because most of it's repetitive and I don't have to focus, apart from just avoiding myself cutting my finger off. That's all I've got to watch out for, really. Yeah. Yeah. All right. See you later.